Holy Hour of Power, Jesus 911. We're 10-8. We're on duty for Jesus. We're on duty for Our Lady. And we are on duty for St. Michael. Eddie, I didn't realize St. Michael, boy, he gets around. We're going to share an article here written by a great Catholic deacon who writes a lot on spiritual warfare, Deacon Guadalupe Rodriguez. I think he's from Texas. We're going to have to get. Yes. I'm going to have to track him down.
Yeah.
His article's called Angels and Dragons, St. Michael the Archangel in Mexico. Let's we'll do a leapfrog here so you guys can but the article's just worth listening to. It says, on April 25th, 1631, St. Michael the Archangel appeared in Tlaxcala, Mexico, to a 17-year-old named Diego Lázaro de San Francisco, who was married to Francisca Castellan Suchli. The apparition occurred as everyone was processing in celebration of a previous apparition of St. Michael to St. Gregory the Great, back in 590 A.D., during a great plague which St. Michael ended. The peoples of the New World, this is Mexico, were themselves battling a plague, a type of smallpox, and St. Michael appeared to Diego Lázaro to tell him about healing waters for the people. Here's what St. Michael said, quote, "You are to know that I am St. Michael the Archangel, and I have come to tell you that it is the will of God in mind that you tell the inhabitants of this place and everywhere abroad that near a valley between two mountain ridges, you will find a miraculous spring of water that will cure the people of their ills. You will find it beneath the great boulder. Do not doubt what I have told you, and do not neglect what I have sent you to do." Eddie?
Just, it's important to realize here that this is a procession remembering the initial time that St. Michael appeared in Gargano, Italy. So this is happening in Mexico, and the reality is it's happening about 900 years after 590 AD in 1631, if my math is right there, and it's happening in the New World in Mexico, and so that's what's happening. So he's telling Lázaro that Diego that there's a spring of water between a mountain range, and that's what's happening here.
What's interesting, Eddie, is that there's a lot of Marian apparitions where there's always evidence of a spring of water that's left.
Yes.
And remember, Jesus Christ calls himself in the New Testament. He says, "I am the springs of living water." It's a reference to Christ. St. Michael's pointing people to Jesus, yes. And Jesus is manifesting here on planet Earth in some miraculous way, shape, or form, or his miracle healing power through these springs of water that we see. Something else also interesting is St. Michael says that he's come to do the will of God. Okay? So if you want to know how to get to heaven, listen to what St. Michael just said here to this Diego Lázaro. He says he came to do the will of God. If you do the will of God, St. Thomas Aquinas says, you will go to heaven. Eddie?
Yeah, that's why we're doing these articles. Feeling unworthy and unsure of himself, since no one else saw the apparition, Diego hesitated in following through with St. Michael's instructions. And in a few days, on May 8th, 1631, which is the actual anniversary of the apparitions of St. Michael at Gargano in 492 A.D.
Italy, yeah, that's Italy.
In Italy, and later of the St. Michael relic stone, which would heal everyone from that particular plague in another continent. St. Michael appeared, telling Diego the following. He says, "Why did you doubt what I have told you? Because you have not done so as I requested. You too will be stricken with the plague that is devastating your people." Diego became deathly ill. The family called in the local priest to give him the sacrament of anointing of the sick. They knew that the end was coming. And then the article says, as he was passing, St. Michael appeared again in great brilliance, and the family fled in fear. Diego later related the miraculous mystical voyage. He said, "St. Michael transported me to the place he had told me about before. With St. Michael going before me through the night, everything was illuminated as the great prince passed, as if it were midday. Rocks and branches split apart as he passed, clearing a path for us. As we reached a certain spot, I saw St. Michael holding a golden staff topped with a cross."
See, let me just make a comment. St. Michael knows where the power is. I know we're impressed. Like St. Michael looks like a giant here, the way you described him, Eddie, or the article.
Yes.
You know, rocks and branches are splitting apart. It reminds me of those Godzilla movies. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
King Kong, just walking through in the forests or jungles and splitting everything. That's the way St. Michael's described. I mean, just like a giant, just like a giant being. But notice what he's holding in his hand, letting the world know where he gets the power from. A golden staff topped with a cross. We'll continue. The article says, As the angel of the Lord shows John the life-giving waters for the healing of the nations via the throne and the Lamb in Revelation chapter 22, verse 1 and 2, so also St. Michael shows Diego a place of healing here on earth for the people. St. Michael said this to Diego. From the place I touched with this staff, wow, sounds like what Moses did, Eddie.
Okay? That's right.
From the St. Michael says to Diego, from the place I touch with the staff, you will see flowing the miraculous spring I told you about during the procession. St. Michael says, make it clear to everyone that the illnesses you have suffered is the fruit of your disobedience. Interesting.
That's right.
Then, knowing of the many thousands of healings, deliverances, and great conversions which were to come from the healing spring, Satan immediately retaliated against Diego, filling him with fear and terror, as Diego relates the following. Having said this, I heard a great whirlwind of deafening screams, wailing and moaning, as if a great crowd were being driven from the place. I shook with fear. It seemed to me that the entire mountain ridge would tumble down on top of me during the turmoil. And here's a classic example for, my buddy, the cop that was here for a couple of days visiting me, and I was teaching him spiritual warfare, Catholic spiritual warfare. He's eating it all up, talking about, adorning his house with sacramentals, blessed objects, wearing sacramentals, rigid prayer life, 3 days a day, Exilium Christianorum at night, confession once a month. I'm giving him this diet because he says things are happening at home with the family. And as he's driving back to his house, he's like all fired up. He's like, man, I can't wait to take this back to my wife and my kids. This is awesome. Just all this stuff that you taught me. I'm listening to Jesus 911 now. He just called me up about an hour ago. He's driving home and on the freeway, and his he's like pondering, man, I can't wait, man. I'm going to arm my family, boy. This is a new Catholic faith now that I've been introduced to. He says, I just had a blowout. I was going 75 miles an hour, had a blowout right now. He goes, I almost went off the road. And he just called me up. He goes, here I'm fixing my tire in the desert. I'm off the road. I'm all happy thinking about the last 3 days I spent with you. And the way I've learned spiritual warfare prayers, Exilium Christianorum, sacramentals, the power of sacred images, the Gregorian chant. And he goes, this has never happened to me, Jess. He goes, I've driven for, he goes, I've never had a blowout at 75 miles an hour in my life.
Jess, this describes for us, this illustrates for us how the devil can attack us. So it could be anywhere. You use this example with the blowout. You go, I have no doubt that's what happened. Jess, look what happened to Diego. The way that Satan retaliated against Diego was he filled him with fear and terror. So it may or may. Yesterday, Jess, when I went to Mass early at 6:30 a.m. With my family, we were at Mass, and there was a priest. He was an African priest. Great homily, Jess. Just a wonderful homily. And right before he was about to say that the Virgin Mary was assumed, body and soul into heaven, the microphone went out. The microphone went out. It was a huge squelching. People were covering their ears until somebody went down there and lowered the volume. Then he continued the rest of the Mass without any assistance from electronics. But I told him afterwards, I said, Father, I would not be opposed for you using this as a homily later, because this is an attack of the evil one. It's obvious. Have you been having problems with this? No, there's no problems with the sound system. So, those are the ways the devil can retaliate against us, Jess, and that's what we have to be aware of. It can come in any form.
That's right. Eddie, so go ahead and continue. What did Diego Lázaro say?
Michael immediately came to the rescue of Diego and reassured him of the great work of evangelization which would take place via these healing and exorcistic waters. Do not fear. These are
this is St. Michael speaking.
This is St. Michael speaking. Do not fear. These are the sounds made by the demons. You're talking about the screaming and the wailing and the moaning. These are the sounds made by the demons, thine enemies, because they know the great benefits that through my intercession the faithful will receive in this place from our Lord. Many, seeing the marvels worked here, will convert and do penance for their sins, and all will give thanks to God for his mercies. Those who approach this spring with lively faith and sorrow for their faults, their sins,
there it is,
will, with the water from the spring, obtain relief in their sufferings and needs, and those at the point of death will find a comfort in these waters. Jess, this is amazing. This is what we hope for, and we have to cooperate in God's grace. We can't just stand back and let it happen, Jess. Like you mentioned before, we can't just put on the Gregorian chant. We have to pray. We have to be a part of it, and God provides the grace by which those things can happen.
Eddie, and here's also something that I'm saying it for